Guys, this is episode 2 of a latest series called Interview with Warfighters. If you guys didn't see the first episode, I interviewed my good buddy Staff Sergeant Kata, who I served with in Bravo 123, and we deployed to Afghanistan together. Now I've got a good friend of mine from way back when, early days, guys. I'm talking OIF 1 and 2, all right, the push into Iraq in 2003. So I got my good buddy Sgt Friedman here, and I'm going to bring him in here. Welcome to the stream tonight, Micah.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on tonight. You guys can see how spiffy he is. He really takes these interviews seriously.
I take these interviews very seriously.
So, anyways, guys, just to kind of preface what this new live stream is not too long ago, I just kind of was thinking, I was like, there's so many interviews out there with special operators, like SEALs and special forces and, recon guys, everybody, all the high speed secret squirrel guys. Right. It just feels like there's not enough attention given to the average ground pounders, right? The infantrymen, the guys that are out there in the patrol bases day in, day out. They don't go back to the comfort of a, nice cushy fob or anything like that. Like, they are in a patrol base in the shit 24/7, the whole, entirety of their deployment. So I thought it would be a good idea to start bringing some of these war fighters on, man. And not to count out the special operators. Obviously, those guys are very commendable and do some unbelievably awesome stuff.
What it is? It's a case of haterade, my friend. Haters gonna hate. And just jumping into it, my last tour to Afghanistan, there was this SF compound we used to stop at called Fob Rob. And you went in there and they had, like, I'm not even kidding, it was like the Gatorade case like you would see in a store back stateside in America, and it like had all the flavor. They had the protein ones and stuff. They're like, oh, did you guys need something out of the fridge or whatever? You'd be like, are you kidding me right now? I've been living on a hilltop for a month. Like, it's haterade. But no, I mean, but that's true. Some of the people want to talk about the war, or like the worst experiences and stuff. And when the one you mentioned, it OIF 1 and 2, it was like we pushed the envelope with like supply chains, with like how long you could go without sleep, how long you could go without just the realities of moving an entire IMF from Kuwait to Baghdad with another country's military standing in the way. Like, I don't think anyone. We had and on our first tour, we had like one or two guys, like Joe, Gunny Moe or whatever was, he had a golf. We had a Gulf War vet from 91 with us. It was like, and what was I told this story before. What was terrifying about him is like he was a meanie poo in the rear, like just like Sergeant Major Plumley, like, good morning, Sergeant Major, like, what's so fucking good about it? Like, he was a meanie poo, but over there, like in the middle of a gunfight, like he was laughing, he was making a joke, like, because we were running down an alleyway getting shot at, and he could tell I was sucking wind. I was a saw gunner. I had like 7 saw drums bouncing off me, and I just looked like a cluster. And he's like, I bet you wish you PT'd more, huh, Friedman? I do.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, because you were talking about the legendary Sergeant Major.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So, we should have structured this. I should have wrote something out.
Yeah. Well, we will get to him. I got stories of him of my own I want to share as well. But so this is all about you, brother. Again, I appreciate you coming on, man. We're gonna spread your word, spread your gospel tonight. So I want to backtrack to high school, junior high, whenever it was. What made you decide to be a Marine? And then once you decided to be a Marine, what made you decide to be freaking 03 infantry?
There you go. Well, I feel like we're of that same. I mean, we came in. We must have been close. I was a senior when September 11th happened, and I went to public high school in Baltimore, Maryland. I was born and raised in Baltimore. I went to public high school up into my freshman year, and then because of, let's just call it, discipline issues, You know how some people's parents threatened to send them to military school? Well, it turns out mine had some follow through, and
Shocking.
off I went to military school in Virginia. And but so that's where I was when I was a senior and September 11th happened. And like I don't know, like the military school and the actual military are very, very different things. But like it seemed like it wasn't the worst. It seemed like there was a calling. And then they're always using the football analogy in the military for things. And it seemed to me like if it was game day and it was the Super Bowl, like they always want to say, you want to be in the game, coach. And I stand by that to this day, that I know we need all the other MOSs, but like, why would you join after September 11th if you didn't want to be a gunfighter? You're like, yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. I can't wait to hand out towels on the sideline to those guys that are really going at it out there. Like, it just seems weird. So I mean, grunt. It was always grunt. It was like, you know, it was like I was taking American government class at the time that was really interesting, and we were really studying the forefront of things. And my teacher he's like, we're going into Iraq, and he was like explaining how Bush was laying down the foundation in the UN right now, and like it was interesting, and I wanted to do it. If the US was going to war, and I feel like that's when you want to talk about there's a whole bunch of stuff that I think you could say leads to PTSD, and I feel like maybe a small portion of that is not being with like on the news it was like everything, the whole world was revolving around what we were doing, and it was just all anybody was talking about. And it was like I can be at a certain place in a time in history that is just like, will be remembered or be talked about or is what's happening. It was cool to be part of something. And they kept talking about that during the invasion, the significance of what we were doing. And if you bought it, I still have the letter from Mattis around here somewhere that, we were liberating the Iraqi people. We were putting an end to the regime of a dictator. I guess I've had a bunch of different thoughts on that over the years, but certainly when I got my parents to let me join when I was 17. They signed the paperwork with me when I was 17 and graduated, turned 18, went off to boot camp, turned 19 in Baghdad. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, man. So you joined the Marine Corps. You decide to go infantry. You're on that plane. You get down to MCRD San Diego.
Parris Island.
All right. Tell us about that, man.
I was a Parris Island Marine. Yes. So I had done some research. Maybe, if I could give advice to someone, because they want to read the books. You want to read everything there is. I read Jarhead. I read I think it was Zell Miller wrote a book. He was like a mayor or a governor somewhere. He was Zell Miller. Look that up, man. I can't remember who he is. But he went into the Marines back in the day when it was legitimately jail or the Marines, like the 80s thing where and he picked the Marines and did great things with his life. But it was I knew what was coming. I knew about the yellow footprints. I knew they were going to yell at us. I knew I was going to get the one phone call. Can't remember who I called. One of my parents. It was some girl, I'm sure, trying to impress him. And let's see.
Can you consider that? Can you even consider that a phone call?
It's like, I mean, no, it's not. There's like a structured thing. You're like, I have arrived at Parris Island and in the safe, capable hands of the Marine, my drill instructors, or whatever it was. You're like, I love you. Got to go. Yeah. And then you watched, and because you knew there were some kids that were, and there weren't kids that weren't going to make it, and they didn't. You watched some of them filter out along the way. Someone in my platoon started screaming in the middle of the night, and they had to drag him out of there. That was that. And then there was one of them tell me, and I know I've posted on my personal Facebook about this before, probably on Veterans Day or something, but you spend an abnormally large amount of time naked in your first couple months in the Marine Corps or whatever it is, like those series drill instructors where you have like turn around butt naked and you're like, this recruit has no medical, personal, physical person. Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess there's a reason they do that. One of the kids from my platoon got kicked out. He had a tattoo that he had made it through with. And they're like, oh, what's that C? And he's like, it means I'm crazy. And they're like, no. And they like open up a book. They're like, you're a Crip. And like, we have a specific policy against gang membership or affiliation. And he got kicked out for having a gang tattoo.
Do you remember? Do you remember the showers with the
especially after PT?
Yes.
And this was an interesting, I don't know what lesson you would take away from this. This was like interesting. But so after physical training, PT, the drill instructors would turn on all the showers in this room, and you would get in line butt ass naked, and you would run through the fucking showers, and you were clean. So towel off, do shit, and then so I mean there was so many kids eating shit like, oh man, once the drill instructor ate shit, and then you have to do everything in your holy power not to laugh, because if you do, that's the end of it for you. But so here was then we had one of those inspections shortly thereafter. This recruit has no medical, personal, and spin around naked. And this kid in my platoon still had grass. He still had grass or something on the side of his head. And I mean, they're still shaking the civilian out of you. And the series, whoever he was like a first lieutenant, was like, recruit, why are you filthy, like, back here or whatever? And he's like, sir, this recruit does not have enough time to shower. Like, this recruit, we're made to go, like, the guy doesn't know what's going on. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, I'll have a conversation with your drill instructors and we'll see if we can't resolve this issue or whatever. And then when that guy was not there anymore, oh man, it was a bad day for that kid. And I'm like, he had a legitimate complaint. They did not give us a lot of time to shower, but like, I guess at the same time, they're teaching you platoon loyalty or something. I don't know. That kid got a lot of exercise that day, and he needed it. He was kind of fat, to be honest.
Oh my God. Dude, we could do a whole live stream just on recruit training.
Man, yeah, no, I haven't told. That's funny that you brought. I thought we were going to jump into. I was talking to Afghanistan. I'm like, that's right. You do have to do boot camp first, and
yeah,
but you tell the boot camp stories at SOI so many, because it's all you have. You're like at the school. Yep. Remember back in boot camp? Oh man, that was crazy. You're like, yeah.
All right, so you go through recruit training. How'd it feel, man, when you finished that Crucible, man, and they give you that Eagle Glove and Anchor?
So I was just trying to think about this the other day, because in one of the group chats I'm in, which, sidebar, based on who's in that, I think the FBI has enough to warrant to listen to that, just on the random grouping of gentlemen it is. But on this group chat, one of them sent a video of like the first female, or the first integrated platoon, male, female, to come out of recruit training or something. And it just recently happened. And, I will not comment on the comments on the group chat, but I was watching it and it was funny because it was the Eagle Globe and Anchor ceremony. And I was like, that's right. They do that. They give you an Eagle Globe and Anchor, and everyone was reflecting on what it meant and stuff. And I think, yeah, but what took away from the experience a little bit? It depends. Do you want to hear this or not? Because it might forever change your opinion of the Marine Corps.
Well, I want to focus on you, man.
All right. Well, I mean, it's my personal experiences, but so what happens when someone fails the rifle range in boot camp?
Remedial.
You get remedial. If you can't, then you get dropped, and another platoon will pick you up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's these cycles that happen every week. So, like, I don't know what it is, but there's a maximum number of tries you get, and then you're done. You don't finish boot camp. This kid in our platoon was on his last try, We picked him up rifle range week. I don't know what you want to say about the nature of our platoon. Suffice it to say, this kid passed. All right, no problem. He passed. He's on his way to Marine. Unbeknownst to the platoon, this fella could shoot just fine. This was his game plan all along. He wanted out, and so now he's gone through. And it was about the Crucible where everyone discovered this because he was trying to drop on the last hike. And our drill instructors found out, and they were like, Rojas, you're going to be a Marine. And they were like pushing him on the hike and stuff. And it was like, oh, no, I don't. So it was like, it kind of took a little bit away from the, here's your EGA. And it was like, no, apparently there was a point back there where it's too late to not be a Marine or whatever.
That's hilarious.
So no, but it was cool. You know why it was cool? What picture I should have given you and didn't? It was like the ridiculously childhood obesity picture of me where I'm like swollen up. Like I had to actually lose weight to go to boot camp. Like it was crazy because all the military services have like, you'd think they'd be like, come on, fatties, come on, join the military. We'll make you skinny. But they're like, some of you are too fat to even attempt a boot camp. So we don't want you. I was there. I had to lose a little bit of weight, and then I went through boot camp, and yeah, so it was like kind of significant. Like it was cool. A lot of people that I knew growing up were like, "Oh yeah, that kid's gonna be a Marine." I don't think so. Like I feel like I thrive on that. The more people doubt me, is like the more fuel to my.
How did that feel, man? You made it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of there was milestones along the way where it was like we had to do something in like. With a significant so to ship to boot camp, at least back in the day, you had to do 3 or 4 pull-ups, and I was a pretty fat guy, so like just to do those pull-ups kind of was like a big deal. But there was something we had to do where it was like the obstacle course, and you had to like get up, and we had like a pack on and stuff. And I was like, I just lifted my entire body up over something with a pack on. Like that's crazy. Like I'm getting strong, and I did the rope thing and stuff, and you're just like, it's crazy how like it was an accomplishment. It was for sure an accomplishment. And then the School of Infantry is just like an accomplishment on misery. Like how to be because are you West Coast Marines? You did SOI West?
Yeah.
For fun fact, I got to do both of them because I re-enlisted and everything closed out. We can get to that later. But my first time was SOI East in the wintertime, digging fighting holes in the snow in Lejeune. Oh. That was misery. Like, that was what we did. The defense we did. So I did the School of Infantry. It was like maybe it was October, November, December. Because it was like December 15th. December 15th, 02, I checked into Bravo 14.
Well, before we get to that, I want to go back to SOI real quick.
SOI, baby.
So if you guys don't know that or watching, I know there's a lot of non-Marines and civilians watching the program. When you go in active duty infantry, like you just go in as an 03. You do not know what your specific MOS is going to be yet. You find that out later. So, Micah, tell me, man, how did you feel when they told you you're going to be an 0311?
That's what I picked. I picked that one because I was scared to be with not to hate, and now I have a different perspective on all of it. But I kind of saw some of the weapons MOSs as being Pogue-esque, like a mortar. I mean, but now I know better because they attach out to the squads that are on foot patrols, and now weapons platoon is really we're gonna break you down and turn you into whatever we want when it suits our needs. Platoon. I can't tell you how many like different grunt units are just like, here's Humvees, welcome to like mounted whatever operations. They're like, have fun with that. But yeah, no, 0311, it's because it's what you see in the movies. You're like learning the hand and arm signals. You're on the patrols. You're doing the tactical columns, the echelon lefts and rights and wedge formations and contact front. And you're throwing hand grenades and you're shooting grenade launchers and you're machine gunning it up. Like, it's awesome. It's the coolest thing ever. The close quarters combat, they're teaching you how to shoot inside houses and stuff. You're like, man, I'm a rock star.
Yeah, I had to ask because that when I went in the Marine Corps, that's what I wanted to be, right? I wanted to be an 11.
Yeah.
That's what I put as my top choice. And back then when you and I were going through, man, it was like, and I'm sure it's still slightly like this, but it was like everybody had stereotypes, right? So it's like your 0311 was like your average Joe. Your 0351 assaultman was like average Joe, but a little bit more intelligent. Your machine guns were all the big jack dudes, your ogres.
Yeah, because you would have to carry it. I feel like that
Yeah.
was one of the terrifying things of weapons is I was like, you're going to have to carry all that heavy shit on the hikes, and I don't want to do that.
And then your mortarmen were all your like turds, surprisingly. But I remember they told me they're like, they got to me and they're like, 0331 machine gunner, and I was like crushed. I was devastated, right? Because I wanted to be
really.
I wanted to be an 11.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so
you
I was
never
like,
wanted. I thought you were like born and bred to be a 31.
Well, hold on. Stuff changes, but I mean, they go at the very end. They're like, "Is anybody unhappy with their MOS?" And I raise my hand and I stand up, and I was freaking PFC at the time, and they're like, "Why are you unhappy with your MOS?" And I said, "Because I wanted to be a rifleman. I wanted to close with, destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, repel the enemy, assault by fire, close combat." And he goes, "Well, tough shit. You're a machine gunner. Sit down."
Well, that worked out. I actually can't picture you as anything else. Like, you were
I can't.
one of the
I can't
biggest
either.
guys in the machine gun section too. Like,
listen,
you became synonymous with Bravo 1-4 machine guns. Would be like, if you would have be like, who do you know? They'd be like, oh, I don't know, Andrews, Downing, and like Schomer, I guess, because you guys were all squad leaders too.
Yeah. I guess they knew me better than I knew myself, man, because I wouldn't change a thing. So
yeah, no, for sure. I don't know. I think you would have been disappointed with some of the mundaneness that is. I think you would have been disappointed with your coworkers. Well, the thing is, there was the stereotypes. The average show is because 11 was like the lowest amount of like ASFAB military intelligence you needed to do. You actually needed to have some intelligence to do some of the other. Believe it or not, those shitbag mortarmen have to actually figure out a little bit of math before they put their big bombs down range. Machine gunners, I mean, still math, but it's more like, all right, maybe up a little bit. They're like, we got this.
Oh, shit. All right, moving on. So you get assigned to Bravo 1-4, and just to remind everybody, like the time frame, Iraq is not kicked off yet. We are still way before the Iraq invasion takes place.
So it's hot.
So you graduated from SOI East.
I did.
And then you're sent to Camp Pendleton, California to report
Camp Pendleton, California. Bravo. So fun coming from Baltimore. One of the it was so funny. I got to Oceanside, and let me tell you, Oceanside looks not so bad nowadays, but Oceanside in 2002, suffice it to say, it was kind of a shithole. I don't know. yes or no. Like, and it's full of some scummy people, like just the lowest form of humans on earth. Now, again, no offense to the local population of Oceanside watching this, because there's nice Oceanside. There's $1 million oceanfront Oceanside, that the big beach house. It's all mixed together, but there's a scummy element. Anyway, so like it's December. You can tell, this is how you tell people are from out of town. It's December, and I'm in like board shorts and flip-flops, like running on the beach, like, this is Southern California, it's so cool. Like, people are like, no, this is fucking, get a tetanus shot, man. Like, get off your bare feet on that sand over there. Yeah. But like I said, it's really stepped up its game. It's pretty nice now.
Yeah. So. It's been a while since I went to a E8 seminar last year, and I went out there just to hit up a surplus store on time. Yeah. So one of my favorite stories being a boot in Bravo 1-4 is going out, getting ready to go out in town, pre having a car, and you had to take I think it was the 395.
395 shame train.
And they have
bus.
They have
bus down the O side.
They got the little park bench that you sit at and wait for the 395.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've been picked up by strangers on that bench out in Oceanside going back the other way. Be like, oh, you a Marine? Oh man. That's another story I tell. One of the first, like your whole life, you're growing up. People are like, children, stay away from strangers. Don't take rides from strangers that offer you rides. It's like, it wasn't until California, like the first time a dude tried to like pick me up and be like, hey, bro, like, he's like, how much can you bench? I was like, that's a weird fucking question. He's like, hey, man, you want to go cruising? I'm like, no, I don't want to go cruising with you, buddy. Like, I don't know. But Marines, with the point of that story, not to get off track, the point of that story was Marines with a car. I felt like that was cool too. Like you'd understand these different levels of being a Marine and the brotherhood and the brothership. Like it was almost an obligation if you were a Marine with a car and you saw little boot campers sitting on that bench to pull over and be like, where are you guys going? But more often than not, they were not going to the grunt part of the base, and they did not feel bad about telling you they weren't going to the north end. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a pogue. I'm on main side. Maybe someone else.
Well, the story I was going to tell is as I was walking up to the bench, I was still like maybe 20, 30 yards away from it. And there's a boot camper sitting there, and a car drives by, and this Marine yells out the window, "You fucking boot!" as they drive by.
That was the other half. Sometimes you got to ride. The other half of the time was the other way. Can we tell the Graham story? One of our little boot machine gunners, Graham.
No, not yet. That's down the road.
All right.
All right. Let's get moving. So
we only got 2 hours though.
Yeah. All right. So get on a ship, USS Dubuque, heading towards Kuwait.
Okay, yeah. So fast forward, they're like, basically I check in and they're like, don't unpack your shit. So it was like December 02 I got there. It was like January, we were on a boat. We pushed. Yep. And it was like February, we hit Kuwait, and March, that war with Iraq started. So it was it happened in rapid succession. Blink and you'd have missed it. You welcome to the Marines, off to war you go.
Yeah. It literally was.
We got a kid in Kuwait. Like the night before the war started. The night before we left, they're like, this is so from, he's a PFC. He just finished. Welcome to Bravo. We're like, holy shit. Nice to meet you. We're going into Iraq tomorrow, dude.
Yeah. Do you remember the General Mattis speech?
I remember several General Mattis speeches. It got to be to the point. Now, listen, I'll go on record right here and now as I love General Mattis. Donald J. Trump aside. Mattis is my personal hero. I still love him. And, however, pause for effect, every time he came out to talk to us after the war, after the end of major combat operations, it was only to extend us. So it was like 3 or 4 times. And the last time they're like, all right, guys, General Mattis coming. Actually, everyone leave your weapons here. We're going to put someone on watch. The rest of you go down or whatever. Like, we're getting extended, huh?
Yeah, we did get extended twice.
We almost ended up doing like an entire year over there, the first one, which I should point out is abnormal for the Marines. If you join the Army, someone posted in the comments they would have joined the Army. My brother was in the Army. Man, that's weird. That Jessica Lynch thing doesn't surprise me. It's accountability is a big deal. Like my brother's like was a attachment, and he's like, people don't even know who I'm attached to or whatever. Like I'm totally on my own right now. Like he was telling me a story about just like getting lost in the transit system of like the military trying to find his unit. Like, you know, like you're on your own to like hitch rides and do all this other stuff, and you could be deployed for over a year, and they're like, hey, okay, here's 2 weeks of R&R in another country you don't live in. Now get back to it or whatever. There's some things the Army does that I don't appreciate, but there's some things they do that I like the 11 Bravo system. You can only be the first sergeant of an infantry unit if you're 11 Bravo. I don't agree with the Marine Corps being able to assign an 8999 to any unit that needs an 8999. I think that's foolish.
As an 8999, I concur with that assessment.
Yeah.
So I say, so let's go back. All right. Do you remember the speech that the CO, the company commander, gave in Kuwait, like the night that the invasion was kicking off? Because I remember it pretty vividly. And
The
it's like,
CO. No, there was a lot of speeches during that time. The one I remember. Do you remember the regimental commander? And he's like, maybe it was a division. He was a big guy because here's what he did. He's like, we'll have fixed wing from the left, and then and rotary wing from the right.
Yeah, I thought that was Mattis. Is that not Mattis?
Maybe, I don't remember who. I don't think it was whoever it was. I'm like, that guy is important. Like he makes planes fly.
Yes, so I thought that was Mattis. Maybe it wasn't, but yeah, he's like, he's like, you infantry Marines. He's like, Marine Air has your back, and he raises his hands and.
Oh man, it was.
And then he's like, don't forget the Cobras.
Yeah, we loved it. People, I know there's definitely like super libertarians back home that are like, we were paying for that.
I hope somebody recorded that somewhere. I've looked for that speech long and
really?
hard.
Well, how? Because I'll tell you what was on my gear list: those wind-up disposable film cameras that you clicked.
Yeah.
And then if you were smart, you could tear the whole camera apart and pull the used rollout.
Yeah, I took several of those as well. So all my pictures from the invasion are on those little wind-up disposable ones.
I'm not even sure they were doing camera phones in 2002. It was a progression too. I remember like my second deployment I got home from, everybody had the Razor flip phone. That was like the first. That was like the first. For one, that was the big deal. That was the one with the tattletale. I have a funny story about the tattletale one. It'll tell you if it gets wet, and that's an issue for Marines. And then it was like, it was expensive, man. But you could take movies with it. It was like the first one you could take movies with.
All right, so let's forward ahead because we got 5 deployments we got to cover with you, man.
We do. So, look, how far are we? We got 31 minutes in, and we got 1 deployment down. Not even, down. Have we finished this one yet?
No, dude. We just kicked off the invasion. So, talk to us about your experience with the invasion, and I want you to hit the fact that you got NJP'd for losing a pair of 7 Bravos.
I got. I mean, and you know what was great is I was reading the comments on the other one. Someone's like, accountability for them, but not for us, motherfuckers. I'm like, great point. Y'all left a bunch of stuff in Afghanistan, like helicopters and shit. And I legitimately was sharing a pair of night vision goggles with my fire team that we were all passing around. And we were getting like 2 hours of sleep, like interrupted by the way, it was like an hour on, hour off, hour on, hour off. All right, gentlemen, moving. There was times where I wasn't sure I was awake or was like sleep, like, man, it was challenging. So yeah, and all that, a pair of NVGs gets misplaced. And who was they signed out to? This guy. And I got Ninja Punch for that. I had several, I'm an acquired taste and I have a great sense of humor. And there's just a lot of senior leadership in the military generally that just has no sense of humor whatsoever about anything. They're very serious people. But yeah, so there's different auxiliary missions that they're like, let's pick this shitbag to do. And I was reminiscing with someone about it. I was a selective unmasker as well during OIF1.
Yes, please explain that because I know most people watch this have no idea what that is.
What a selective unmasker is? Well, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, after all your equipment, once there's a chemical alert for a chemical attack or one of the Scud missile, every time a Scud missile went off or something, they assumed it was gas. They go, lightning, lightning, lightning. And everyone had to mop up into their mop suits. And you had these chemical suits and you were all sealed up inside. And then after all the instrumentation read out that everything was all clear and it was all safe, they'd select 2 Marines to come forward. Schmuckatelli, come forward. Ask PFC Friedman, come forward. And hand me your rifle. Here you go, sir. I guess I don't need my rifle. Yes. Take your mask off. Beg your pardon? Take your mask off. Well, it was cool because we did training for it in Kuwait. And during the Kuwait time was fun because it was training. It'd be like, oh, look at me taking my mask off. Haha, I'm a selective unmasker. Look at all you guys with your masks on. And then, like, the first time we did that for real, I was like, holy shit. And, like, Doc's like waving his flashlight in my eyes. He's like, "How do you feel?" I was like, "I don't know." Like an idiot. Like an idiot.
That was a good thing about being a machine gunner, man. They weren't going to pick me as a selective unmasker. That's for damn sure.
That, and you can steal anybody's fighting hole you want,
yeah,
because your weapon has priority.
That's true. So, all right, man. So we fight all the way around down the push, man. We get to
a bunch of people on the way up there.
First contact. First contact with him.
Was it Al-Qut? Was it Al-Qut? I was trying to remember the order of stuff. I know we saw a little bit in Nasiriyah, but it was like the tail end.
I think Nasiriyah was our first encounter.
Was it?
I think so. I may be wrong.
No, you probably. I mean, I've done too many of the deployments and too much medicinal California medicine to remember it all. There's things I forget, and I'm okay with that. But yeah. So we leapfrog it all the way up to Baghdad with all these different units, getting all different kinds of word, running out of food, digging fighting holes every night. One night, supposedly, we're going to get overrun by a whole goddamn division of Iraqis or something. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. Just being sleep deprived and getting yelled at, being a boot generally. I remember going by a bunch of, that was one of the worst feelings of OIF1, was because you were hungry, and we drove by a bus of burned out people that had been bombed. It was like, and you could see them all coming out of the side, but they'd been sitting out in the sun for a couple days, so they were like rotting. And it was like this rotting body smell that made me start to try and puke, but I had nothing in my stomach to throw up. So I was just like dry heaving. I was like, this is a pretty awful feeling. Like, it was just general misery sprinkled in with like a handful of gunfights. Because no enemy, I think, put up, I don't want to say that, like, they didn't put up significant resistance, but like, not like we're gonna, I don't like, because the first time a gunfight lasted more than a day or two was probably OIF2, was when you had gunfights that lasted the length.
Yeah, when we got to Saddam City, man. Remember, we had to clear out all those blocks, and then we were at the bridge.
It was like a good solid day of fighting, but then we owned Saddam City by the end of the day. Yeah. By the end of the day, we had Saddam City. It wasn't like, and I'm not saying like the otherwise, but like OIF2 is when people consolidated and it started taking like 2 weeks to take a city or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have any significant campaigns that resulted in, and that might have been part of the problem, because after we got, I watched that Generation Kill just to spin myself up not too long ago. And after we got to Baghdad, I remember there was like, it was tribal warfare and stuff. But do you also remember patrolling in deuce gear and boonie covers? Like, we left the wire in vehicles without armor, the Humvees that had the zipper canvas doors, and we just had like just the magazine carrier, like not even plates or anything, man, and not helmets, but the boonie covers. Like, it was crazy.
So we did a live stream not too long ago talking about body armor, and I brought that exact point up. I believe it was in
Did
that
you?
One.
It was an evolution. It was an evolution, because what they started doing was putting out soda can size IEDs, and then we started putting out the saloon door armor that we had on the sides, and then they started putting out like 155s and like all the different kind of ordnance shells, and then we started up armoring our Humvees, and then they started making 500-pound HMEs, and we went to the MRAP ATV, whatever the latest like V-shaped hull that's 10 feet off the ground for blast resistance. Like, it was an ongoing game we played with terrorists for 20 years.
I don't know if you remember this, man, but you remember I used to have to stand in its 7-ton in the middle between the bed and the actual cab of the truck. There was a little like box, and us machine gunners would stand up there with our 240s on a bipod, right? No protection on the side, nothing, dude. We're just standing there in between the cab and the freaking bed, just open for all to see.
Well, remember in Kuwait, before we got the tracks, we were sandbagging 7-tons. We were filling up sandbags, and we were putting it on the floor of a 7-ton. And we're like, this is essentially an armored vehicle.
Yeah. I remember the sweet day that the AAV showed up, man. That lead track had a big Texas flag on it, man.
Oh, I was telling. So Alpha Company, I was talking to another buddy of mine, and Alpha Company must have had some different reserve unit. Bravo Company got the Texas reserve trackers.
Yeah, our guys were from Galveston.
I knew they were from Texas. Yeah.
Do you remember those dudes? I mean, maybe I'm a little off because what was that, like 19, 18 years ago?
Yeah. 20.
But I remember those guys being like 40-year-old Lance Corporals. Like they were old, man.
Yeah, well, I think aren't you in the reserves? That's standard for the reserves, man, isn't it?
It was when I first went in the reserves in 06. It was because when I went in there was three guys that were sergeants that served in Desert Storm. And what happened is they had broken time. So it's like 9/11 happened and they came back, right? They all served in Desert Storm. They came back in after 9/11 to serve. And then I think that's probably what happened. But I remember those things being old.
Some of them. I was a coyote instructor at TTCG, and we would train reserve units. And one of them was funny because like they were like, "Come on, gentlemen, you can do better than this. It's not rocket surgery." And one of them's like, "Well, I'm a rocket surgeon or something." He was like legitimately, or it was like, "No, it isn't. No, it's not brain surgery." He was like, one of them was a rocket scientist or something. He's like, I work at MIT. He's like, I'm a rocket scientist or something. He's like, I'm just in the reserves, sir.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, that is the story.
They have lives. But remember, it's probably OF1. There was the reserve. We encountered reserve units out there doing VCPs. What? I'm literally doing a podcast. I got 100.
Is that your old lady or what?
That's the old lady. Are you kidding me right now?
Like you're in the middle of reminiscing about war.
Oh my god. No, so it's like they were doing, these reservists were doing a VCP, but they were you could tell they were cops. They were like cops, and they're like, "Good evening, how's it going? This is just a vehicle checkpoint for contraband." Or it's like she knew, Mister. Like, like they don't speak it, but it was funny.
Mister Goodbush,
good Mister Bush, the dumb full donkey, Mister the baby, Saddam. Ooh, good Mister
Michael
Bush.
Jackson. That was another
yeah, man. And then, like, what's funny too is our Arabic was all fucked up. Like, because we were like we associated bad guys with Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. And we were literally going around asking people where Alibaba was. But they were like, they figured out what we were talking about. They're like, but that must have been very confusing for the population of Iraq to be like, fucking Americans just invaded and they're looking for Alibaba. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, and then Haji is an inappropriate term. And then it was like man, military age male, poi, like person of interest.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself now.
I don't know what I would be getting counseled for whatever I called them right now. They'd be like, I'd still be a sergeant, and they'd be like, Sergeant Friedman, I need to see you in my office. They'd be like, whatever word you used, it was inappropriate. I need you to sign this piece of paper. Sure.
All right, so let's wrap up OIF1. So we ended up setting in an old Iraqi pistol factory and turned that into a fob. And then we operated out of there at Al Hilla, Iraq. And then we did time at Babylon, the ruins of Babylon. How was that experience for you?
I off-roaded through King Nebuchadnezzar's ruins in a Humvee. That was pretty awesome. And people like climbed up on the lions of Babylon and were like riding them. Right. Like this is one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and you savages are riding the lions. Like, cool. Dude, no, it was cool. And we were hung out at Saddam's palace there, and we got to see, like, that was culturally significant. We were on the Euphrates, right on the Euphrates. All the religious groups were getting together, and our senior Marines thought it would be hilarious because a rabbi came by and asked if there was any Jewish Marines that were interested in attending services, and they were like, "Oh, we got this guy Friedman. He might be Jewish or whatever." And so, like, a rabbi was looking for me for the longest time on this compound, Saddam's compound in Babylon.
I got a funny story I got to tell, man. So when we were at Babylon, you know how our camis were just disgusting because obviously
Gross,
we were
filthy,
unbelievably filthy, and we hadn't seen females, American females, in months, right? Well, when we were at Babylon, we were at like meth headquarters there, and they brought in like this mobile PX, and there was a female Marine there, like a Lance Corporal. I remember her as being like a 10, but who knows what she actually was. But I remember my good buddy Bonehead, who eventually I'm sure I'm going to bring on this interview. We're over there, right? And we keep looking at her. She keeps looking back at us. So we're like, you're like, oh man, she's checking us out, man. Check it out. And then so finally, she, after like peeking over at us multiple times, she comes and walks over, and we're like thinking, oh man, she's coming to talk to us. And she comes up, she's like, hey, can I ask you guys a question? And we're like, oh man, this is awesome. She's like, why are you guys so dirty? Dude, that crushed us.
So actually, that was true when we got to Baghdad in Saddam City, later renamed Sadr City. True story. As like things are settling down and people are coming back to their homes, like local Iraqis were giving us bread, were giving us water because we were hungry. We were getting water, and they were like, "Come to our home, Mister Wash, Mister. You need a wash." Like I'm like, this motherfucker just told me I'm filthy. Like that's where we're at. Cool.
Yeah, they're living in mud huts, and they're telling us we're dirty.
Cool. Like, but they're very hospitable. Like Middle Eastern culture as a whole, I would say, like, you know, they are very hospitable people. Like, there's that story about the SEAL who in Afghanistan declared a Pashtuwali, and like by their rules, they had to protect him, like as he was one of their own. Like, there's some very interesting things that go on in the culture. Things that I'm not okay with, but like there's some good if you're looking for good, you know.
All right, so we redeployed back to the States. Guess we're gonna pick up the pace a little bit here.
Mission accomplished. I mean, we can put a pin in it, and I can come back another day depending on how far we get. But
well, we go back to the States for like 6 months, and we're redeployed right back over there, OAF2 now. So talk about that.
We could just, I mean, that's just glossing over one of my favorite portions of my life, because we got home and they gave us 30 days of leave, and we had pretty significant bank accounts because we had just been saving money from all the paychecks, and they gave you 30 days of leave. And, you know, long story short, I came back on the 15th day of leave, having blown through all my money, but having a lifetime of rewarding experiences. So,
didn't you go to Vegas?
Man, I did everything. Like I was like, I went to Miami. Like I got rooms. Like, oh man, like bottle service. Like it was ridiculous the amount. And then because I wasn't old enough to drink. And one of the hotels I stayed at, I got room service to send up a case of beer. Well, I asked room service to send up a beer, testing the waters, and they did. And they didn't card me because I was staying in an expensive room, and they brought beer up, and I was like, "Can you send up 24 beers?" And they're like, "Well, we can, sir. And someone's tried this before, but just so you know, we have to bill you $5 a beer." And I'm like, "That's fine." You know, like, so they said they sent them all up. It was that, or I was pulling a hey mister getting bums, and I was drinking with bums a lot. Like, man, I live my life. I live my life, Brett. I live my life. So after 15 days, I came home. Yeah. And then, so anyway, then we had to go do it again, which was fine by me. And we went off, on OAF2. We took a boat over that time, right?
Yep. The USS Denver.
We left. They said that was that supposed to be a Mew?
Yes.
We stopped in Hawaii.
Yep.
Because it was almost an identical story on my fourth tour with 3-1. They're like, this is just going to be a fun Mew. And we totally went to Iraq. And that's it. But so we stopped in Hawaii. We did some training at the Schofield Barracks. Hawaii had red dirt. I remember that.
Yeah.
And OAF2, true story. So we had so much fun after OAF1 that there were 2 Marines not allowed off the boat except for training in Hawaii. And that was myself and one private first class, probably Private Davis, who is currently missing in action. We should use your podcast to find where that kid is, who I'm pretty sure he's dead. If we're just being serious, I'm pretty sure he's dead.
If he's not dead, he's in jail somewhere for sure.
If he's not dead, he's doing time, or he's homeless. Like, and I don't even know how you track those people down. And he's like from the south side of Chicago, so like he's just, yeah. It was all bad. One of our junior Marines knew it was very embarrassing. One of our junior Marines knew Davis because he used to sell him crack in his like former life. He's like, oh shit, Lance Corporal Davis, remember me? I got that red tops. It's like, oh fuck, Davis, like that's uncomfortable. Yeah, no, Myrix. He ended up getting blown up in OIF2 by a mortar through his knee or something.
Yep. In the cemetery.
Yeah. So yeah, we took a boat. Oh, we were allowed to leave. So the only two Marines to have an alcohol-related incident, myself and Private Davis, we snuck off to the PX, or we were allowed to go to the PX, but when no one was looking, he had bought a big old handle of vodka, and we had made these 50-50 Powerade vodka concoctions and brought all these Powerades back on the boat and got real shitty. And then Davis took it upon himself to light the smoking lamp in the berthing down below on the ship. And so our berthing became a smoking berthing. And so he's just like smoking. And then he's like, I'm going to go fight first platoon. Oh, it was funny. Davis had a problem.
You provided me a photo here that's on ship. It's just
that's one of my 3-1 deployments, but that's ship life. That's the coffin racks. You sleep 4 high, and then your bed opens up and you put all your stuff in there. Like, yeah. And you close that curtain. That's your privacy. You want to yank your crank, you close it. Oh, and Davis totally, check it out. Davis totally goes to do it, but there's also a light that's in there, and he has the light on, and there's just like a shadow of a guy behind this. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, Davis. Oh.
Oh, you're killing me, man.
Jesus.
All right. Jesus. All right. So let's get in country here. So
all right. So
good job. Fob Hotel.
So we land in Kuwait again, right?
Yeah.
Did we fly off the ships again?
We flew off the ships and convoyed from Kuwait to Najaf.
Okay. One of them we took the LCAX, which was kind of shitty. And then fun fact, the night before, I didn't understand it. It was like, I guess it's tradition. The night before we go ashore, they serve steak and lobster on the boat, which is always, it's a plus.
Yeah,
if you want to join the military, you can get steak and lobster the night before you leave a Navy boat on your way into a combat zone. So
that's to help us out, because that might be our last meal. That's the whole point of
that. Yeah. True story. It was all right. So then, we convoyed up from Kuwait. That's right. And then that was Najaf, right? Najaf.
Yep.
There's like Fob Duke, Fob Hotel.
Yep.
There's, oh man. And so one of our mutual friends, who is Army Special Forces right now, it's always, I am under the impression that like he may or may not have started OIF2 at the cemetery. there is, it's for the history books to really decide. But I remember like we were strictly, it was the cemetery, let's set the stage. It's like, it was their holy site. Like it was like the third or second most holy site in the entire Muslim religion was this cemetery in Najaf. Like, I don't remember who it was, but supposedly a bunch of big wigs are buried there within the Muslim religion. And so al-Sadr and his Mahdi militia had been fortifying it under the army, mind you, because the army had Najaf prior to this, and they had allowed to fortify this position. And one of the things that they had done in fortifying the position was they had on-call targets. And for people who don't know what that is at home, those mortar systems that you set up and it lobs around up in the air and drops it. If you're smart and you're setting in a defense, you can have these areas where you think it's likely the enemy is going to approach from, and you register your mortar systems on those areas. So hey, if I put my mortar tube exactly like this, it's going to fire exactly there. And so they had registered targets on the Mahdi militia. The bad guys had registered targets all throughout the cemetery. They knew how to effectively drop indirect fire. So anyway, the rules of engagement never forbid you from defending yourself. So, who shot first is a question for the ages. But apparently, after taking fire, we chased people into the cemetery, and then the cemetery kicked off, and the whole war started. That whole battle for Najaf started, and it was several days long. I was out there a couple nights. We relieved you because we had this weird rotation going because it was a QRF. It started as a QRF.
Yeah.
We called it, what was it, the governor's building? What did we call that little building?
Yeah, the governor's building.
The governor's building or something. And that was a kinetic environment. Like, we took mortars and fired there on a regular bit. Those posts return fire. Like, so we thought that was the cool place to be. Plus, it was a building with several abandoned floors, and I totally made my own office in there.
I've got a picture of this.
That said PFC IC, PFC in charge. I had my own office on like the third. Nobody bothered me. There was also a random group of super secret people that did stuff with radio signals on the very top floor of that we didn't have the clearance to know about. Oh, that's the Haditha Dam.
Oh, that's not it? Okay.
That's the Haditha Dam. No, that's
I wish
that's my third. That was my third deployment. That's a hydroelectric dam in Haditha, and we lived inside that thing. Those were our rooms and stuff. But
those secret squirrel guys, I remember that, man. They had that little room to themselves. And
no shit, I'm on post up there, and they're like, come out, because we did have a post that was kind of next to their rooms that looked out through the windows. It used to be on the rooftop, but it took too much fire, so they brought it down to the top floor at the end of the hallway through a window was the defensive position, and they're listening to their radios. They come out, and he's like, hey, do you have a line of radio communication with whoever's in charge of the guard? I was like, I do. He's like, will you call down there and tell them that right now there's an active threat for 4 suicide vehicle? Boom! And he's like, three suicide vehicle bombs are out there or whatever. And he's like, will you just spread that message out? Like, it's like, holy shit. Okay, man. Okay, I don't know who you are, but you know things. You know stuff. So you guys got called out on a quick reaction mission to the cemetery, and that turned into be the bulk of the fighting. So we were at the governor's house for like 2 more days before we got out to relieve you guys. Like, I can't remember how many. I remember seeing Schwarzy when we finally got there, and he came into the back because I got in with Shomer. We'd been there the night before. We'd been shooting, and then we pushed up into the morning. We were shooting, and then Schwarzy got into the back of our track, and because that was the night Parkerson died. I just remember that. He was not in a good mood. And Myrix had gotten blown up. His knee was fucked up. So Myrix was evac'd, and there was a saw in the back of the Amtrak. So I picked up the saw, and I was just shooting that. So we were taking sniper fire. That was weird. The Amtrackers called us, and they're like, we're pinned down, sniper fire. We're dropping the ramp. Like, let the Marines out. I'm like, how the fuck is your armored vehicle pinned down by sniper fire so you're going to drop the ramp and let the Marines out? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, you moron. Like, so Shomer and I were just like in the back of this Amtrak, and we agreed that every couple of seconds we were going to just pop up. And I had the saw, and he had like the 240. We were just going to shoot machine gun into anything that looked like it could be a sniper hole. And so we just started doing that for a while. And then the sniper fire stopped, and then everyone came back into the Amtrak, and Schwarzy was there. And it was the night before Parkerson died. Cemetery was fucking nuts. I don't know. Watch a movie on gunfights and stuff. The cemetery was fucking shithole. And you're fighting in a cemetery, which is already shitty enough. I know I didn't sleep the nights I was out there. Like, because we also set up our machine gun on a rooftop, and as soon as you walk in there, there's doors that were to your back, and the building we were in had like a crypt that went down below, and so Shomer and I we go down to clear it, and again, supply issue. We didn't have enough night vision goggles and mounts and shit to go around. So I remember I had a night vision goggle. Shomer had like a night vision goggle up, and he was leading the way down. And I had a keychain mag light from the PX that was like a red light keychain and a pistol. But I threw a grenade down there first. He's like, you ready? I threw a grenade down there, and then we went down there to clear it out. And we couldn't see shit, dude. I blew up a fucking tomb. There's like bone dust, like going, like we're breathing in like airborne person. Like it was like I'm like, this place is clear, man. There's nobody down here. So like, but then that was I got in trouble for that picture. That was me doing disassembly and reassembly of an M67 fragmentation grenade.
Do not do that.
Apparently that's not a real thing.
Terrible.
So yeah,
Terrible.
so I threw and so we set up on the rooftop, but then like in the back of your mind, you're like, man, someone's gonna come up here. Like all night long, I was just like, someone's still gonna be, because you turned out those grenades didn't do shit. There was a kid from Charlie Company in Ep.2 that got a K-bar kill. And they had thrown a grenade down there, they had done all this shit, and he like literally ran into a guy going up the staircase, and they wrestle around, and everybody chickens out or whatever, and they just hear this motherfucker screaming down in the basement. They go down there, and he's just knifing this dude. And you know what? That's a story you can never tell when you go home. I was always like, how are you going to tell you, like, you tell your people, you're like, I killed a guy with a knife. They'd be like, all right, Rambo, like, roger that. Like, no, really, someone in 2004 legitimately had to get a K-bar kill. Or, it was 04. Like, that's crazy. And then we got tasked with going up to Nasser wa Salam, Abu Ghraib prison, and bumping with 3-1. And I would later join up with those 3-1 guys.
Hold on, before you get that, you gotta cover this, man. The Kufa raid.
Woo-wee! That's we did a raid in Al Kufa. That's right. And we set up this technical college where they were like training insurgents, and we just in the middle of the night, our company commander, because that's the other thing, like you get a certain amount of information, you get a certain amount of discretion, but some people are afraid to wield it or use, like there's publications on how to do it, but there's no real like method for how to lead a company in a warfighting environment or something like that. I credit I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of really good leadership in the Marine Corps. And you and I both know that at the time, Captain Carrasco, I think he's a lieutenant colonel now, but he was one of the finest company commanders you could have had. And he
Agreed.
saw an opportunity and went after the enemy. And I'd like heard different stories throughout the years that he's got his ass chewed for that mission and this, that, and the other. But we went out and fucked up a bunch of people that were training to be insurgents in their little training facility in the middle of the night. Because they were, you know what, like in conventional war, that's how it's done, dude. You wear a uniform, you say, I'm with this team, and you're with that team, and let's do it. And so we identified a bunch of people with that team that were training, and we just caught them slipping. We drove up in the middle of the night and unloaded on their little college.
If you don't remember, man, at the end of like the culmination of that cemetery fight, we were supposed to do a final raid on the mosque.
The biggest, shittiest feeling. It was like up there. There's a couple things that you're like, I don't know. Did you remember this or not? Do I remember us at the very end letting thousands of these motherfuckers surrender to go join up other militias throughout? Yes. I do remember at the very end when they brought it was like the Muslim equivalent to the Pope. They brought him down to like talk with Sauder and be like, what you're doing is unholy and you need to stop. Stop it, bad boy. And then we let 2,000 or so people put their weapons down and come on out and go join the population to be productive citizens and certainly not join up other militias to fight me in 2005 in fucking Haditha.
And now that piece of shit's like got a seat in the Iraqi parliament.
Dude, like, he's like, I don't know how he's so popular. He's still popular with certain groups in Iraq. I know that much.
I got to tell the story because I know a lot of people don't know this. So we were literally staged on the outskirts of the Najaf cemetery in our AAVs. And literally, they had this thing. They said it was going to be running the gauntlet. We were just going to punch spearhead up this road right across from the mosque. Deploy. Our good buddy Schwarzy was going to get out, was going to fire a small shot into the mosque door. The machine gunners, i.e. me, were occupying the building across the street, and we were going to fire as a section online, suppressing the mosque, and then Kurdish special forces were going to like actually enter the mosque so that we didn't piss off the locals. But, I mean, we were going to run the gauntlet, and we were just going to finish them off. This was going to be the final battle to destroy the Mahdi army. And we
you.
were literally
Man,
staged. I've got pictures of us with cami paint on.
I was going to say, you missed an opportunity with your famous cami videos to show how you actually use camouflage in a wartime environment. You paint a skeleton on your fucking face to be real scary like, and it doesn't matter
in
if
the
they
cemetery,
see you or
right?
not.
Camouflage.
Mongo, like that's what he was like it was like white and black, like skull looking thing. He's like, like, yeah.
So yeah, but this was going to be the final raid.
We were ready.
Minutes before we were set to launch, they called it off because they reached some fucking political deal with Al-Sadr.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So. No, I remember. And then we continued. That's when we pushed up to we lived in Abu Ghraib prison, supposedly, and there was Olympic stuff, Olympic rings painted on the wall up there, and the rumor was Saddam used that as a torture facility for Olympic athletes that wouldn't perform or whatever, or to get their optimal performance or something. We were living in jail cells. Jail cells, son.
You remember going to the torture chambers at Abu Ghraib prison and like seeing the claw marks on the walls and all the cells leading up to
some funky shit. There was some funky shit all throughout that place. It was a weird set. Was that before or after all the shit at Abu Ghraib had come out?
After.
It was after. It was post that.
So no kidding, man. I got a photo that was taken, and I'm sitting there and I'm holding like the lever of the hanging trap doors, right?
Yeah.
Two hooks, and there's a trap doors on each side, and there's a lever in the middle. And I'm sitting there like holding the lever, smiling. Dude, in that photo are orbs. I kid you not. There's orbs in the photo. You. That place is haunted, man. There's no
all that mind. Like, oh, it's yeah. I'm telling you, who wants to fight in a fucking cemetery? And there was plenty of them up in Fallujah had its own, because we bumped 3-1. We were like in the suburbs of Fallujah. Nasser Wassalam, Abu Ghraib prison are like the outskirts of Fallujah. So we bumped 3-1 to go. We bumped the company in 3-1 to go join the rest of their company to do what we had just done in Najaf, but in Fallujah. And then we oversaw their stability operations in a shitty part of town.
Honestly, man, that was outside of the Battle of Najaf. That was like the pinnacle of a Marine grunt was being there in Nasser Wassalam, man. Because like what we're doing on a daily basis, that was straight up infantry stuff. I mean,
there was IEDs. We were getting the compound got mortared on a routine basis.
Yeah.
But like, God, that was actually funny because most of us were on our second tour. We'd had a bunch of gunfights under our belts and stuff. But Abu Ghraib was like an army place with like army nice stuff. They had a laundry place that you took your place to do the laundry and stuff. And so we were going up and they start playing the mortar alarm and are like, I don't know. We couldn't find anyone. We were like, where is everybody? And they were all hiding in those little concrete bunkers. They're like, what are you doing? It's IDF. I'm like, is the laundry place closed? Are they not doing laundry right now? Like, why is everybody hiding in there? What are you guys doing? I never know what you're doing in there.
Do you remember the first time we were at the mess hall there? We all went down there as like a platoon. So we're all in there. We're sitting there eating our chow, and those alarms going off, and everybody's underneath the tables. And we're all just sitting there at the table, like eating and looking around, like, what the hell is everybody doing?
Inside. You're inside. Like, I don't know, man. Like, mortars that's a thing, man. That'll fuck with you. They just go up in the sky and they're gonna land, and it is what it is, dude. Like, it's shitty. It's a shitty, dirty way to fight. That's the only way they can fight us is through asymmetrical warfare, through keeping their distance, through IEDs, through like stuff where they would never close. Because they knew. I think most countries know. Anytime you close with the American military toe to toe, it's not gonna end well for you. Like straight up. But that's not the day and age we're in anymore. It's this guerrilla warfare.
I remember, man, because they had all those EPWs in the big large like cages and stuff at Abu Ghraib prison where they're like walking around by themselves and us rolling in, and these guys would like flick us off and all this stuff. And every day around chow time we'd get mortared from the enemy. And I'm like, they not realize their own people are like sitting out here.
That's right. They mortared. It was like one day they did a whole barrage that hit nothing but detainees like out in the yard. It's like, joke's on you, stupid.
All right, so we finish up at Abu Ghraib prison.
Yeah, we went to Al. What was it? Al Kut. I have the Happy Fucking New Year picture. Was the first time we lived in a trailer, and that was pulling that security at that one place in OIF2 before we went home.
Yes,
that was like, and we were like the Polish were there. It was like, it was chill. Nothing happened there. I feel like that's where we spent Christmas too.
There we go.
That was it. And we got those, it was like trailers, and there was like 4 of us in there, and like I had guard duty, so I was on my way out to post. But yeah, and then the glass was taped up for the mortars in case, like, so the glass didn't go everywhere or whatever. But that was good living, man. Those things were warm. We had cots in there. That's like a Santa Claus blanket. You can see pictures of loving women back home.
Yes.
Happy fucking, oh man, Beck, I miss that kid. Kiesling, good guys. Look at that. Funny. Yeah, and then right after that, we came home shortly after that, we came home.
So when is this OIF2, the picture with you holding the 2 AKs?
Yeah, that's the governor's compound, because we had the Iraqis with us. So it was like one of the posts. There was like an entry checkpoint. That was like one of the entry checkpoint posts. And so the Iraqis had AKs out there. And so I was posing for pictures with them. Those were like our counterparts. Weapons. I don't even know what they were. We found them. I'm sure we found them in a cache somewhere and made them our own.
Yeah, we found all kinds of interesting stuff.
Well, and then we'd find out in the cemetery that all the shit we bought for the police departments, there was like brand new Glocks and armor and stuff we bought for the Iraqi police and military that were all inside the cemetery.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
Okay, so we can tell the Graham story, because it was on our way home from OIF2. We're driving through the school, and we have a boot, this brand new boot that just did his first little tour, and now he's salty or whatever. And we're on the bus coming home from the airport, almost to the barracks, and we have to drive through the School of Infantry. And like, this kid was just there 6 months ago or like a year ago or whatever. And he like sticks his head out the bus window. He's like, fucking boots! Like all the boots marching in formation. I was like, oh, it's adorable. The cycle is complete. Circle of life, baby. Hold little Grandma. The circle of life. Graham, you're officially a senior Marine.
So hold on, before we get back to redeploying, I got to tell this one story. So you guys don't know this, but Micah is a very awesome guitar player. You may not be able to tell. So he took his guitar on deployment. Well, we had this guy who's the machine gun section leader, big jack guy, awesome. I need to get him on here to do interview with him one day. His name was Andrews. Well, Andrews had his teeth overlapped in the front. Like they weren't the best of like dental excellence. And so because of that, he had a unofficial call sign of like Jaws. So I remember Micah playing the Jaws song, dun 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 dun. So I remember Andrews coming over to you, dude, and you started running from him and you're playing the Jaws. And like as he got closer, you're like dun 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 dun. Was it you or Schomer? It was one of you.
I feel like it might have been Schomer. It might have been Schomer, but we definitely because I was teaching Schomer guitar. Schomer, I know you had him on before. He's a fun guy. He like gets addicted to stuff. Like he got addicted to poker, yeah. And then he got addicted to guitar playing, and he wanted to learn all there was about it. And like, yeah, no, but yeah, we would jam out. It might have been Schomer because I knew Andrews. I didn't like getting my ass beat by him, and he could definitely beat my ass. Like,
well, that was our thing, man. if you were a machine gunner, like you had to be a good fighter, right? We fought each
Yeah,
other. All the
yeah, yeah.
time.
There was just nonstop, like
Right.
fucking brotherly brawls, and I'm like, I get it, but goddamn, I don't know. I guess the infantry at that point is when the infantry started to slowly deflate. Because I'll tell you, by my last tour, I was like, dude, like I've accepted I'm gonna work for stupid people for the rest of my life, but I'm tired of them making decisions that are gonna cost me my fucking legs. Like, get out of here, dude. Like, I'm done. Like, I slowly started to get deflate. The oorah, I don't know. Good for you for doing 20. Because I contemplate this on a daily basis where I'm like, this is the point where I'd put my papers in as a young man, putting my 20 years notice in, catching my 50% pension for the rest of my life. But 5 tours took it out of me.
All right. Well, let's jump off OIF2 because obviously you decided
So
to go
no,
back.
we got home from OIF2, and so here was where things got fun. We got home, and everybody had already done 2 tours, and we didn't have enough time left on our contracts to do a third. And Bravo 1-4 was going to Japan. They weren't even doing war shit. They were going to Japan.
Yep.
They're like, you all need to extend your contracts to come with us to Japan. And I was like, you need to kiss my ass because I'm not doing it. And they're like, okay, everyone who doesn't extend your contracts to come to Japan with us, we're going to send you to 3-1. And there is enough time on your contract to do one more deployment with 3-1 to Iraq. And then we all got 3-1 shirts from the PX and wore them to PT the next day. Like, I dare you. Guess we're going to 3-1, huh? Yeah, do it. I dare you. I bet you won't. So the next day, they lined us up in a box formation and marched us down to 3-1. And they're like, this is group orders right here for all of you to report to 3-1. And then, but I learned my lesson. I was a little salty. You want to know how I ended up with the combined anti-armor team platoon driving around in Humvees shooting people with machine guns? They started going like this. Welcome to 3-1. India, Kilo, Lima, weapons. India, Kilo, Lima, weapons. And I was like, what? Weapons company? Oh, what? How did that happen? And so off to weapons company 3-1 I went. And I was with Cat Platoon from that moment on.
Where'd you guys end up going in Iraq with 3-1?
So the first deployment, I loved it. They didn't fuck around. We relieved a reserve unit that had their shit pushed in. It was like it was Ohio or somewhere else. They were in Haditha. They lost like 20 cats in a day. They had a catastrophic kill with an Amtrak or something. They were doing Haditha. What were some of the other names of the towns around there? Supposedly Zarqawi had a summer house. Baghdadi was a town down there. What was the other ones? There was like this part in the river. Anyway,
is this them or is this a different?
That was the vehicle crew I was with. Unfortunately, that gentleman in the middle, his name is Sergeant Jeremy Murray. He was killed. This is so fucked up. This is how the world works, dude. Like, literally, that guy in the turret got promoted to corporal. So he got assigned to be the vehicle commander of another vehicle. I got bumped to be the 50 cal gunner in this truck, but coming from a rifle company, I was way more proficient on a 240. So they moved me over to a truck to be the gunner on a 240 truck. And then they filled that, and like the very next day, that truck got hit by a fucking IED. And Murray died. Heller is all fucked up. And then that guy in the turret eventually caught a fucking IED himself and got all fucked up. I'm actually the only person from that picture that didn't fucking get all fucked up. It's just the way it works. Man, no, show that same deployment. Pull that picture up that someone made in 3-1 with the WIA, KIA. I'll show you what was left of my platoon. That was what was left of my platoon after that deployment.
I don't have that one downloaded, man.
I know I sent it to you.
You did. I apologize.
Yeah, it was like everyone in that platoon, like
I'll get it while you're talking.
75% of that platoon has a Purple Heart. We had like 50 kilometers of road. There was one road. There was it was classified. I don't know if it still is. Route Uranium and Route Bronze, and these roads were like 50 kilometers long, and it would be one cat section's mission per night to do 24 hours of patrolling because it was a major supply road that the Pogues would use to supply stuff. So we would literally spread our trucks out, 4 trucks, 4 people per truck, and we'd spread them out like over a kilometer between trucks, man, like to the point where you cannot safely see the next truck. And we had to go 50%. That's it right there. Fucking all those kids got Purple Hearts. Murray in the middle got killed. I mean, and some of them got like maimed, like seriously maimed, where they're all fucked up. But yeah, so that was me. And if you look back by the Humvee, there's a bald-headed guy. I don't know. We're all bald-headed. I gotta get a headset on. There to the left. To the left. Javi's. Yeah. That's me right there. Yay! I have nothing on my shit. Telling you, I fucking somehow Forrest Gump my way through all this shit. I don't know.
Now,
so,
was this when that incident took place?
When that was like our later on follow on. So 325 had lost significant ground. That was the reserve unit. It was 325. They lost significant ground, and so we did an initial operation to take all the cities back. And we went in and we met a little resistance, but we took all the cities back. But not unlike Baghdad, we did it in a way where, and they work in a way where you can't ever catch them, with their hand in the cookie jar. So they would they do the asymmetrical warfare, the IEDs, we were in like a built up city area to the point where they could just walk by. They had access to walk by places, and we just had barbed wire off, but they could lob a grenade over the wall, no problem, and it would land, close. So we still had a lot of issues going on, and there's been movies made about it. You can read all the stories you want about it, but there was a rifle squad that was led by someone I knew. That actually had members in it that were from Bravo 14, that got put over there.
Really?
And they came in contact with the enemy, and they did what Marines do. They faced contact, they shot, they moved, they communicated, they cleared rooms out with grenades. And at the end of the day, there was a significant civilian casualty total that ended up launching a huge investigation. And like to this day, I think they call it the Haditha massacre or something. And like, it was a friction point, man. Like politics meets war meets what are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? Meets the same realities of we don't want to die, but we got to defend ourselves. Marley!
Meatloaf!
But so it was like it was crazy. It was a lot of asymmetric, and it was fucking frustrating, dude, because that Murray guy died. We've been, you sit out on a road for 24 hours. You cover with these 4 trucks, you cover maybe 10 kilometers of this 50-kilometer road. And then you get down the road, and they knew who we were because they wouldn't even fuck with the convoys. They would fuck with us because we were the security. And they blew up one of our gun trucks. You know what I mean? And there was another thing we had to do because it was such a long road that there was a point where we lost communication with the Haditha Dam. And we would say, all right, dam, stand by. Here's our grid. We're going to roll over and talk to another base that was over there. So we rolled over and we made contact with an air base. So we had radio comms, and we'd be like, we're coming in. And it was like the same spot that we used to do this all the time. But then we got good at it, and we started doing it on the fly without stopping and rolling. And they put a fucking IED right there. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. The day Murray died, we got hit with a giant bomb that flipped that Humvee over. I just saw it. I saw it rolling. and I saw those armored doors, I was like, someone's fucking dead. Like, there's just no way. And then we were trying to call a medevac, and we couldn't get the fucking dam. They did it, and like they did it in such a way where it was just the dirtiest of the dirty, where we were outside of comm and we were just fucking helpless. And a passing by Huey saw it and landed on his own free will on the road to see if we need assistance. So we told him we were pretty sure this guy was going to die. We need to get him to Abu Ghraib. And he's like, I'm not a medevac bird. Hand to God, my boy pulled a pistol out and put it in the pilot's face and told him he's going to take our guy. And he fucking did. He died anyway, but fuck it.
You hear about that shit all the time from like Vietnam and stuff. Like if you watch the like the Jocko podcast and stuff with the SOG guys, like I must have heard like 2 or 3 times like stories of those guys pulling out pistols on the pilots. Like, no, you are gonna freaking go get our guys or get our guys out of here.
No, there's some good to go pilots out there, man, for sure. And like, I'm sure he was just curious, and I don't know. The air I had in Afghanistan, that was a different story. Over the evolution, we got our shit together. Stuff we had in Afghanistan, like we figured out that golden hour thing, and there's a Air Force PJs called Pedro or something, and it's like that golden hour stops when the bird hits the ground because they have everybody on bird. They have trauma surgeons on board and shit like that, and they'll go into a hot LZ. They'll have attack helicopters with them, and they'll just light up, like pave a way with fucking rounds. They'll bring a fucking bird in, and they'll take the golden hour stops. We figured we've made leaps and bounds. This was 2005 was my Haditha tour, so that was like 15 plus years ago. So we figured some stuff out, and the armor situation too. All those trucks that I drove around in 2005, that was like what the Afghans were using in their heyday. And it was hilarious. They'd sit on the roof of them with like their legs dangling over the windshield, like completely outside of the armor, where you're like, you guys, you don't get it, huh? You go in the armor, you go in, you close it, yeah, you'll figure it out. You guys will figure it out.
Yeah, it's sorry to say, but like, we really adapted over the years in, 2 decades of warfare, fighting the enemy. You think about like how we went in 03 and like the equipment we had, when we went in 03, man, like we didn't even use tourniquets, right? Remember hearing like tourniquets are last resort? Like you put it on, the guy's gonna lose a limb.
I had 6 of them on my kit in Afghanistan. Like,
we
figured out one's not enough.
right.
One doesn't stop the fucking bleeding.
I carried 4 in Afghanistan, and I think back to OAF1, I'm like, I don't even think we had tourniquets, man. We had cravats, or you had a bandage. Like that's what you had. No
shit, because I never went to SIF. This was a true story. When I checked out of the Marines in 2012, I had the original on the SIF gear inventory. I had the original first aid kit signed out to me. That was the plastic thing with the Band-Aids and the iodine in it and stuff. Yeah. And one of my buddies had one, and he's like, you know what I'm kind of pissed about? He's like, I'll give it to you. I have more. He's like, but I've seen them on eBay. He's like, what they would bill you for not turning it in is less. This now goes for a collector's item on eBay. And he's like, it's worth. I was like, I got to turn some shit into SIF, so they let me out of the military, man. Give me the bandage. Give me the bandage kit.
All right, so you did 2 tours with 3-1.
So yeah, so that was Haditha. Oh, we flew over there, man. We got all the gear in country. We left all the gear in country. We flew back. We just took our personal weapons. That was a really convenient deployment. I mean, it was as far as the gear inventory went. I'm sure I'm missing all kinds of stories. Kids killed themselves all throughout. We're like glossing over that. I know we don't want to talk about Max, but he killed himself at Abu Ghraib prison. There was a kid that killed himself at the Haditha Dam. Like, we saw the 22-day thing coming. It was fucking sick funny, but the kid was a fobbit who never left the fob, and he put a tarp down, and then he shot himself. And then so for the rest of the deployment, when then like you got fucked with the mission, be like, get a tarp. Like we just kept saying that the whole time. Be like, so where'd so and so go? You went to find a tarp. Like, you know what I mean? Like I thought it was funny, but he put a tarp down, killed himself. So the fourth one, it was funny. So like I said, it started out on a boat. Like you're doing a Westpac. We stopped in Hawaii. We stopped in Guam, which was chill. And then we went to Kuwait and they dropped us off in Iraq. But we were writing stuff down. At that point, like we'd sit in on these briefs. I was a sergeant and we'd sit in on these briefs. And to hear some of the people talk at these MU level meetings, they'd say the stupidest shit. And it became a game to write down the stupid shit they would say. And this one guy's like, we're going to go. He's like, we don't have the equipment we need. He's like, but I'm going to climb up the MU tree and shake off a few oak leaves. I'm just like, what the fuck did he just say? Like, because the oak, then why we were going back to Iraq, because it was part of the troop surge. The commander's like, because what happens when you squeeze Jello? It goes everywhere. Like, these are my leaders, man. So like we were part of the 08 troop surge and we went to like what I can only describe as the Iraqi insurgents' 29 Palms. Like we found on abandoned buildings spray painted Dragunov optics, like what it would look like looking through the lens of a Dragunov because it has like the graduated, it's got like a like a swoopy thing in it or whatever. And so they were giving classes on how to shoot the Dragunov, which I obviously needed and didn't get. And then so man, it was interesting. We found mass graves. There was like this it was like this weird insurgent population that was happening because we were getting ice for our trucks. We'd stop at some of these shops and buy that big Iraqi ice, those big, huge blocks you had to break up with a knife or whatever. And we'd fill our coolers so we had cold water. And then one day the shops were all like, we're out of ice. We're out of ice. We're out of ice. And our squad leader was just not having it that particular day. And he fucking we had a shotgun to breach locks and he fucking blew their lock off and shit. And he's like, what's all this? And it was a bunch of ice. And they're like, they told us if we sell anybody ice, they're going to kill us all. Like, we have to stop selling you ice. You're not here all the time. They're going to murder us and our whole families. No more ice. Like, we took the ice and like, we're taking the ice. But, yeah, like there's how it became a legitimate police problem. And there's almost probably a level of hubris to our own looking at it. Like, we're going to go, I mean, look what's going on in America right now. Like our democracy, we're so full of ourselves that we're going to go spread. We're so good at democracy. We're going to go teach the Iraqi people how to fucking do it. We're going to teach you criminal justice. And we're going to teach you all this, that, and the other, and overcome your thousands of years of tribal warfare and the way you live your lives. That was one of those troop surge Jello missions. I think we were out in the middle of nowhere sweeping with metal detectors. And we found all these fucking fuses or whatever. And we're like, oh shit, this is in the thing. And turned out it was a town that collaboratively had raided one of Saddam's bases after it had shut down. And they all knew how to chisel off or ring off the fuse that was worth money for the metal. And they would take the metal and melt it down and they would take it to town and sell it. They weren't even using the fucking munitions to use them. And we blew it up anyway. Hearts and minds, baby. We blew it all in place. And watched them all with their little poopy faces crying as we destroyed the entire town's income. And we're like, good, Mr. Bush. We got this. Like, hard to believe things went downhill. So then I came from, the fourth one, troop surge. The boats eventually came back to Kuwait. I stopped in Australia on the way home, edited for the podcast. Don't worry. I did 2 years as an instructor at TTECG, teaching Marines how to do war stuff, teaching machine guns, teaching counter ID. It was supposed to be a 3-year station, but I got bored there and I called my monitor, and I know I pissed a lot of other coyotes off because he scooped up some other coyotes after I called him. But I was like, I'd like to go to a victory unit and go to Afghanistan. And he's like, just so happens I can make that happen. Your wish is my command. I have an opening in a victory unit if that's what you're looking for. And so Victor 3-4 at 29 Palms is where I went to go do my 5th tour to Afghanistan.
I got some pictures for that, so tell us about that.
I know. By that time, I had figured out the digital cameras and to take pictures, and I wish I still had pictures of the things I saw. I can walk you through some of the pictures. Some of them were literally my job to take because I was on an advanced party leaders recon. And we were doing a left seat, right seat. So that's the whole platoon that I was with, Cat Blue. That's me on the end, that fat sergeant that had just really, really packed it in at the end. Hair's all falling out, all salty and whatnot. Yeah. We were living on the Kamari Plateau. We were living on this plateau overlooking the S curve. One of those crews is mine. I had a whole vehicle. I was in charge of a vehicle. That's the section leader on the end, that little guy there. And the guy with the gun, with the suppressor on it, we figured out, we started calling people designated marksmen and giving the platoon high shooters some of the better equipment. Like we had a suppressor and an optic. I think it was called an M. We were fielding new gear at the time. There's me and the one in the middle. I guess you should not be in the middle. The one in the middle's dead. Paul Zanwick, out of Mimisburg, Ohio. There's a Paul Zanwick Memorial Highway you can actually drive on. You go out there and I see his parents. Mimisburg. I'm telling you, man, it's like the movies, the small town America, the white picket fences. It's like I'd never seen a town like that till I went to, maybe it's Miamisburg, Ohio or some shit. It was, that's where that kid's from. That's a poppy. That was in front of the poppy field. That's me on the left with my fancy GPS watch. And that kid on the right, true story. That kid on the right joined the Marines to get away from home. Guess where home is? 29 Palms, California, Yucca Valley area. And he got stationed with Victor 3-4 right out of 29 Palms, and we went to Afghanistan. And to this day, he still lives in Yucca Valley. Fucking goddamn desert trash. Oh, I love that kid so much. Yeah, so that was that deployment is where I completely lost faith in all that is holy. Yeah, that's me. There was one point in time, you can show all the weed ones. There's one point in time we were living with these Afghan soldiers, and we were outnumbered by like 3-1. And it was like they had a pot garden in their own little compound, and they were just smoke. It was like, you know what? Like at some point in time, you have to you have to just like accept that this is, you have to find a way to keep the peace and negotiate. Like that point in the deployment, I went full native, man. I was smoking with the guys. It was crazy. I was a Afghan soldier at that point. Like it was an interesting experience, man. Like, so I lost faith because starting out the gate, like from a very basic infantry level, you learn if the enemy has a center of gravity, you find it and exploit it. Like picture, for example, the movie or the book We Were Soldiers, or the true story. They had radios, and at one point in time, they had to use the radios to continuously drop indirect fire and aircraft fire to keep the enemy from overrunning their position. At that point in the battle, that radio would have been the center of gravity. If you had taken that radio away from the enemy, they would be dead. You'd overrun them. So we know the enemy uses the poppy to fund their war, to fund their equipment. We know that that they don't do shit during the poppy harvest season. It's beautiful. We're standing in the poppy fields taking pictures. No one's shooting at us. They need to harvest their poppy. They need to do their thing. So our orders were to sit there and just observe and, left seat, right seat for the first 90 days and just watch the harvest. And then after the poppy harvest, we're going to go take new ground. And I'm just like, well, one problem that comes, like, why don't we do it before they get all the money for the guns and stuff? And so that just put a bad taste in my mouth. But I actually had a professor that shedded some light on that. I don't know if you're ready for this truth nugget. And I don't know if it's true. I know that this guy is like a geopolitical background for educational purposes, and I think that this would be his area of expertise. But he mentioned, because I know for a fact that something like 90% of Europe's heroin comes from Afghanistan, right? So 1 year, apparently, we tried to shut the poppy harvest down. And so that created a very serious heroin shortage in Europe. So the price of heroin went through the roof, insanely through the roof. So you have two choices for all the population that's addicted to heroin. They can either stop doing heroin or they can start doing more crime to pay for the heroin. And so apparently by shutting down the poppy harvest, we fucked up the crime in Europe so bad that we had to start letting them grow poppies again or something along those lines. I don't know how much truth there is to that or whatever, but supposedly, I don't know. I know that there's definitely, the DEA was there. The DEA, the CIA, like we got briefings from those people that were like telling us these are the quantities we're looking for. Like if you found like what less than a kilogram of raw opium or something, it was no big deal, like let them go or whatever. But like talk about a tedious process watching that poppy harvest where they slice open all the bulbs and let the goop come out, and they go all the way up and down the field, and then they scrape the hardened stuff off. They just like at the end of the day they just have a tray with just like a bit of goop of just like raw opium, I guess. Crazy. We did a raid where we found 25 basketball size chunks of opium that they were saying was worth 25 million. Yeah, those are the fun pathways to go down. Let me tell you, they are a worthy fucking adversary, man. Keep clicking through some of those Afghan pictures till you find a murder hole. These foot patrols and the Ranger file, no more tactical columns, no more spreading out. It was Ranger file. It was walk in the boots of the man in front of you.
Yep, 100%.
And that point man, god damn. Talk about people that probably have some serious PTSD. That dude with that metal detector swiping it out front is probably just like a shelter dog at this point. Like, yeah, man, that terrain, and they would shoot at you from these things called murder holes where you couldn't even see where it was coming from, man. You just caught that pop sound that we're taking fire, and they were good. They've been doing this for a while.
I remember when I got to Afghanistan, man, you're seeing all this vegetation, this green vegetation, right? So it's like, it's crazy. You go from these heavily vegetated areas to, just barren,
barren plateaus and whatnot.
And this picture epitomizes that. Like you look off to the right and you see just barren desert. And then all of a sudden to the left, you got high vegetation.
But they build homes into that shit on the right. They'll build homes and walls and stuff. They're like little hidey holes and whatnot. Like here's a story I like to tell where you're like, what's the problem? Why aren't we tougher than the Afghans? Let me tell you a story about a checkpoint I was working when there was 5 people, a family of 5 on a motorcycle. Okay, there's the dad on the motorcycle, the wife, the kid, the other kid, and the little baby on the handlebars on the motorcycle. And they're going up and they're going over a little footbridge that goes across the canal, and dad just can't hold it, and the baby comes off the handlebars and goes in the canal. And mom just goes down, scoops up the baby, hands it to, this has happened before, hands it to dad, then off into the desert they go. I'm like, that's a lifestyle that fucking, like, I'm triggered because you said a word that offends me is gonna end up like you don't understand the school of hard knocks, my friend. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, that's Afghan. That's the population over there. Like, if you're wondering how that rolls. So yeah, no, and they shoot at you in the morning from the sun, from the east at sunrise. and they shoot at you in the evening from the west with the sun in your eyes, so you can't see where it's coming from. And they got around all of our metal detectors. Those little sons of bitches. Like, oh, that was the plateau. We had a hedgehog. We had a pet hedgehog up there, and that's where we slept. And one person was on the gun system at night, and the rest of us slept down there. And then we did foot patrols out of there. We didn't really we took our vehicles a lot of times, but we did foot patrols out of there. Yeah, good living right there. Oh man, those MATVs. Man. Oh, I don't miss that at all. They eventually built up. That Kamari Plateau, and they brought engineers up and shit, so they're digging this up. Guess what they dug up? They dug up a bunch of anti-tank mines that were left over waiting for the Russian occupation of those hilltops, waiting for the Russians to put their tanks in. For some reason, we'd been driving on them, we'd been sleeping on them, we'd been dancing around up there. They just didn't get, and when they started doing construction to fortify that hilltop, they found all kinds of ordnance from the 80s that we were sleeping on top of. Like, good times. And then, so like, we had to supervise this road. They were building, that was our whole mission. They were building this 611. And then once they built this road into the Kanjaki Dam, then they could bring these turbines up and they'd have hydroelectricity and everything was going to be fucking fine and dandy. They just had to build this road. And our mission was to help them build this road. And we just got worn the fuck out trying to help them build this goddamn road. And I'm telling you, man, like, oh, it just, all of it put such a shitty taste. I just was going to tell a story about that. And now I've already drawn a blank on it. It was just a game. It was a game, dude. They came over. Oh, no, that's where I drew the line. So after a couple times, we figured out everything. Oh, okay. So let me tell this one patrol story. We went out on patrol, right? We drove our trucks out this time. It was a long distance patrol. We drove our trucks out. We think we should take the exact same route back, follow our footprints. We flip a bitch. We follow the exact same route back. We had already driven over an IED whose battery pack had expired. And in the meantime, they came out and put a fresh battery pack in it, and we hit the IED on the way back, man. Can't take the same route twice. Got to switch that shit up. So we also figured out, so you take your eyes off something, it's got an IED on it. That's just what happens. You take your eyes off the ground, it's got an IED. The Afghans don't fuck around. So there were these hilltops that they wanted us to take to observe because they knew it was a key piece of terrain that observed this road. We knew there was IEDs up there. It was like, duh, there is no shit IEDs all over that hilltop. Can you send like an engineer unit to clear it, like a bulldozer? And they're like, oh, we don't have any bulldozers at this time. Like, just go take the hill or whatever. So Platoon goes up there to take the hill. Lo and behold, fucking Junior, he was in my squad earlier on. He switched out to someone else's truck. But a kid I personally knew, a nice young kid from Hawaii, stepped on an IED meant for a vehicle, and it fucking cut him in half. And that's where, like, there's not enough Turner kits in the world to stop the bleeding of an upper torso. And, like, he bled out. And then, like, literally after that, like, 10 minutes later, they call over the radio. They're like, we're pushing a bulldozer to your position. Like, we have one. It's like, yeah, I know you do, motherfuckers. Like, you know, you guys are so stupid. Like, everybody running this shit show, like, I hate you all. Fucking, to a degree, I saw that what happening in the end of Afghanistan. I know I told people, like, you're going to see an image similar to Hue City with the helicopter coming off the last. Yeah. I was like, you're going to see something like that coming out of Afghanistan. Like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing here. Like, we lost focus. It was generals lying. It was everybody lying because the military is a dog and pony show. And it was everybody submitting reports to their superiors saying everything's going the way it's supposed to go. Because, you know, to say otherwise would be the end of your military career. So there's a bunch of career people sending it all down the line. And we fucking, I don't know what we accomplished. But it was, shit. Zanwick died. Camara died. We took some casualties. And there's kids from our platoons. They're in good spirits. I see them putting pictures of themselves in the back of a molly pack on Facebook, but that's because they don't have any legs. And they're like, when they posted, I said I'd always have your back, and my buddy's carrying a pack with my other buddy inside of it. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's like, what the fuck? Called it the Sangan diet. 40 pounds in the blink of an eye. You lose your legs. I was in that deployment. I was in the Upper Gresh Valley, South Sangan Valley, Upper Gresh Valley. And you got there, and they're like, there's a place across the river called Kalayagaz or something. And they're like, oh, we don't go there. That's the Afghan or the Taliban own that. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean the Taliban own that? Like, and like that's theirs apparently. Like, we don't go over there at nighttime. And they like blink. Oh, and the radios. Remember the radios where because we had linguists. By this time, we figured all kinds of stuff out. We had Terps with us, or linguists. You can't call them Terps anymore. They're linguists. And Terps derogatory. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're associated with a turtle, like a Maryland terrapin. Maybe I don't know. Terp is derogatory. Can't call them Terps. They're linguists. And the linguists, we figured out we could pick up the Taliban's radio chatter on like the NASCAR scanner things that you would go to NASCAR races to listen to your favorite NASCAR driver or whatever. And they would fuck with you. They'd be like, oh, the weather's perfect. Let's all get in position to do the attack now. And they're like, oh, they're talking about getting in position to attack you and stuff. And you're like, oh, is it serious? Are they really? And then sometimes they would attack you. Sometimes they were legitimately doing it. And it was crazy, man. It was, you know what else? The end of that deployment was like October, and it's night and day between their varsity and their junior varsity fighters. Like summer crews squared away. The winter time, it was so funny. We're driving, and someone shot. That was the first time Afghanistan where I started seeing the grenade launchers. They had the little grenade launchers underneath their AK-47s. Someone like shot a grenade, or they shot their AK at our convoy going down. And we stopped, and we all turned, and it was like a guy in a field with a gun, and we're like, "Are you fucking serious?" And like, it just fucking unloaded on him. Like, what the fuck? With like the whole time they've been like crazy. Like, it's like, I guess the winter junior varsity fighters are here. Man, I'm telling you, I wish I had a picture. I don't know what happened to it. There was a cornfield, and the varsity guys dug a tunnel from the cornfield 100 meters underground to a road where they removed a buff underneath the road to put 500 pounds of explosives and then come back out, all while they're under the observation of a post. Okay? And the only reason everybody was okay in that blast is because while they were underground, they didn't understand that they were kind of digging to an oblique. So where they thought the explosive was here, and it was actually over here. And so they blew the IED, and the 7-ton tried to stop, and it rolled into this giant crater or whatever. So like minor scrapes and bumps. But yeah, that's the level of dedication they have, man. They'll do some Viet Cong style tunnels underneath there, right under your eyes, remove 500 pounds of dirt from the road and replace it with explosives, all while you're watching them farm in the field. Like, Jesus Christ.
Do you remember Humphreys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually ran into Humphreys over in Afghanistan, man. He was at FOB Dwyer. Shit. Yeah, and he was passing through. Dwyer was crazy, man, when I was there, because there was like so many different battalions coming in through there for whatever reasons. And I ran into several dudes from 1-4 there. But anyways, I was talking to Humphreys, and he's like, dude, it's fucking crazy out here, man. He's like,
it was not Iraq. It was not Iraq, man. It was not, like, yeah. And granted, like 2004 Iraq, even that was still mostly conventional. Like, it was it was messy, it was mortars, but like they still kind of like, centralized themselves, and then we still were like allowed to kind of fight. Like, somehow the Taliban had never lost control of certain swaths of Afghanistan, be it the terrain, be it the pop, be it whatever. But
the thing I noticed is like Iraq, there's cover, right? Like we were operating in buildings and all this stuff. Man, dude, Afghanistan, it was just freaking wide open, dude. You could when I was talking to Humphreys, he was like, dude, I was in an open field. He's like, we were heading across this big, wide open field, and he's like, I got pinned down by a PKM. He's like, I'm just laying there. He's like, I couldn't do shit. I just had to sit there.
And they knew they got you in L-shaped ambushes too.
Yeah.
It was the first time I've ever been in an enemy L-shaped ambush. Like, what the fuck, over? Like, they're using tactics. Like, Jesus Christ, they're coming from both ways, you sons of bitches. You're not supposed to. And then, like, they knew you'd get air on station and they'd stop shooting. But they know that the air has a fuel tank and they know how long that fuel tank lasts. And you're like, no. They're like, all right, we're out of fuel. We're bingo. We're heading back. All right, well, no, they don't have the fucking. You're like, get the fuck out of here. God, really, you fucking bold.
We have got to be the only country in this world that deliberately goes into war and handicaps ourselves. You know,
like, the rules. I mean, because the other thing we watched is we get contact. There's two things we'd see. We'd get contact with the enemy, and then we had this camera. This is where the American smarts come in. We take the camera off of an aircraft and stick it on a blimp and fly it above our bases to go observe all the areas. And so, and by the way, they figured out if you shoot the blimp, super easy way to get that thing out of the sky is just shoot the big balloon in the sky. But I digress. The blimp would spot after a gunfight 20 guys on a raft going back on the other side of the river, back to Kala Yagaz, the land the Taliban owned. And they'd be like, do they have weapons on them? No, they don't have weapons on them. Well, no shit, because they're all in the weapons caches on this side of the river. They come over, they take the weapons out, they fight us, they put the weapons back, they get on the boat. Oh, we see them on the boat. Could you drop a bomb on them, man? And they're like, well, it's just 20 men. We can't, there's nothing we can do. Be like, tomorrow, see you gentlemen tomorrow, same time. Or maybe later this afternoon.
I remember seeing an ISR video, and it was ISR following this Afghan on a motorcycle who just, I don't remember if he just was planning an ID or taking some pop shots or something, but he's taking off on this motorcycle and he crashes because a Cobra is like chasing him, and he crashes and runs into this little hut, and the ISR just sits there flying patterns over the hut, and they could not engage him while he was in the hut because they didn't know who else was in that hut. And I'm just like, come on, man. Are we fighting a war here?
Then after a gunfight, we'd have military-age men come up to the base and be like, oh, I was just working in my field and you guys shot me. You have to take care of me. And we started evacing some of these motherfuckers, like a 20 to 30-year-old guy, single. He's like, I'm just working out in the field, man. Like, you guys just shot me. Be like, really? Were you shooting at us too? No? All right. Come on, get on our helicopter. The American taxpayer will take care of you. We got you, dog. Like,
it's just, you think about the push, man. Like, we took down the Iraqi army, all of it, in what, a month, and then
our failures are the same as they were in Vietnam. The American people didn't have the stomach. They didn't. For one, our leadership sucked. There's probably similar leadership issues. I know we didn't learn a lot of our lessons from Vietnam, but when the American people saw the Tet Offensive, I feel like you guys might have even been talking about that on one of your other podcasts. Because I went in military school, we had an old crusty Green Beret from Nam that was one of the old timers there, and it was he talked about it once, and they brought a video camera out, like it was a big deal. They recorded the guy and everything, and he was like, we every time we went toe to toe with them, we won. He's like, when the American people woke up around Christmas and saw the Tet Offensive and said, what are they doing in the South? Why are they all over the place? That was it. Nobody had the strength to go on and fight the Vietnam War anymore or whatever. And it was like, because, the Haditha thing, because over the years, different outlets framed the war from different perspectives, and it's not necessarily wrong or right or whatever. It was like, there's a lot of civilians that die. It's the nature of war. There was a lot of American casualties that we took. Also the nature of war. There, the other side took casualties, and it's like, people get tired of it. But you know what? Like you look at the Iraqi or the Afghans and you look at their history. One of the Iraqis I talked to was just like, we're tired of war. Like we had Saddam come in, and then the 80s, they had the Iran-Iraq war. And then Saddam made them fight in 91 during the Gulf War. He's like, you guys came in again in 03. He's like, but it's like, that's some shit they've seen. Like, I guess some of those people know how to sit on a fence is what it is. But the Afghans have never been, I mean, it's just different mindsets, different mentalities. And we've certainly gotten comfortable, and we've gotten really concerned with how people, perceive us and feelings and stuff. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Yeah, I'm really concerned when we have to go up against a peer threat, because I don't feel like the American people, short of another 9/11 style incident, God forbid, I don't see how we can take on a peer threat, because people have these mindsets of, the war on terror, like
That's
heavily restricted
really
warfare,
interesting point, man.
Karzai 12.
How do you think 2022 would respond to like a Pearl Harbor? That's a really interesting point. Like, there would definitely be people. And if you'll recall, we glossed over that. OIF-1, after we got home, do you remember the Defenders of Freedom parade that we had in Oceanside? We got to put our camis on and march down the streets of Oceanside.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was a group of police protecting a little group of protesters that were protesting the war. But it was just a little group. I mean, it is Southern California. What do you expect? And it was a little group. And I feel like most people in America were all right going into Iraq at the time. And Afghanistan. Because all of a sudden, every news outlet, when Biden pulls out, was like, oh, nobody wanted to go in to begin with. Or it was like, you motherfuckers have short-term memory loss.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Toby Keith was singing songs, and we were all going over there, man. And everybody was cool. And the Dixie Chicks tried to open their mouth once, and everyone told them, shut the fuck up. Like, that was how that went down. Like, I remember that time period. I remember it well. Like, now all of a sudden, I don't know. We got through them all, man. I'm impressed. We got through all 5 deployments.
Well, before we end this, man, let's talk about, because you left the Marine Corps, but you essentially continue to serve as an IED.
I made contacts at that Coyote position, and there was a need for high-level people that had much. I'm not a unique story. There's plenty of cats that had plenty of tours and plenty of experience out there, and some of these the world of private government contracting is out there. And I took a position teaching as a civilian, but with a government contract on 29 Palms, teaching Marines counter ID, and I did that for a year. Yep, there I am. Look at that. I put picture. That's right. And I did that for the better part of a year. And it took its toll. If you want to actually have a serious conversation about mental health and shit, after 5 tours and a year of doing that, I discovered that I might have some post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever. So it was, we had Hollywood special effects people there that blew up these IEDs, and like chunks of concrete were like fly. It was like every day going back and creating a situation. And then but then you're teaching these kids and you're giving classes, and there's the 18-year-old PFC that's fucking nodding off because he's fucking tired. And, you're signing these, and then we had the clearances so we could see what was happening to these units downrange, and they were just getting fucked up. And I was just like, I hit a point where I was just like, I can't. And I was like, I had to go. Like, that was the end for me. I was like, I need to find something else, man. So yeah, we talked. I used, the other podcast. I used my GI Bill and got a bachelor's, and I'm about to finish. I'm clerking for a judge right now. I'm about to finish law school. I'm in my last semester. So.
Well, cool, man. Do you have time to take some questions from the audience, or do you
I can take a few questions.
So if you guys got any questions, this has been an interview the whole time, so we haven't responded to anybody's comments in the comment section. But if you got some questions, man, now's the time to ask. Michael Friedman, 5 combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And,
man, you guys are usually all talking shit all day long in the comment section. It got quiet.
We haven't got too political here tonight. That's why.
That's true. I haven't brought up any of the hot button issues.
Let's see. I know I saw a couple along the way.
I saw some too. I don't know what that means. RI English.
There was something about a guitar. What kind of guitar you play or something like that?
Oh man. Well, I've been let's see. There was a saying. I've lost my hat more than once or twice or whatever. You know, I've been up, I've been down. I got home from deployments and I've been flush, and I had a Martin guitar at one point in time. And I've also pawned a Martin guitar to make rent in Orange County. Had my ups and downs. My wife got me because she likes it when I play. I really haven't been playing much. She bought me something from a pawn shop, so I'll mess around. I got kids now and they want to learn, so I've been teaching my sons. But thanks to YouTube, no big deal. Like I really, he's probably better than I am at this point. How about military recruiting push?
Here's one. What do you think, according to Michael Freeman, what do you think makes a good platoon commander?
That's an interesting question, because I'll tell you, surprisingly, who one of my favorite and the platoon as a whole, one of the most respected platoon commanders we had. His name is Mike Geiger. Hope he doesn't mind me throwing his shit out there. And the funny part was, it was my third tour. We're doing the workup on Pendleton, and we're like, we still don't have a platoon commander. The platoon sergeant was running. They're like, the platoon commander is graduating from IOC this week. They'll be like, could be here soon. We're like, are you fucking serious? They're like, we're going to Haditha, and these cats had just 3-1 had just finished Fallujah, so they're home. Their OIF2 was Fallujah, and they got home. They're like, this little boot camper who's just finishing SOI, and it like he came in, he was humbled. He brought us in with the attitude of just like, I know how much experience is in this platoon, and he brought us in for a meeting. And he's like, I want you, I can learn as much from you as you can from me. He's like, I can show you some cool shit along the way, from the schoolhouse on call for fire and stuff. He's like, he respected and got the respect of the Marines, and anyone would have done anything for him. And he also, leading from the front. I think the Marine Corps officer program is probably the finest in the nation. I know business people look to the stuff that they do. There's a book called Leaders Eat Last or something. And it was this business guy wrote about it, and he followed a officer. Marine officers are the last to eat. And when they serve, they're the last to go to sleep. They're the first ones up. You can look at the leadership. I had to memorize it at one point in time. Be technically and tactically proficient. Know yourself and seek self-improvement. Know your Marines. Look out for their welfare. Keep your men improved. Set the example. Ensure the task is understood. Supervise the task. Train your men as a team. Make sound and timely decisions. Develop a sense of responsibility. There's literature. All right. There's literature. I can't believe I remember all that stuff, man. There's literature on what makes a good leader. There's reading on it, and then ultimately it just I don't know, because I will tell you that you didn't see it often, but along the way there were kids that couldn't do it. There were kids that went into the black when rounds started coming down range, and and I don't fault kids like that. I know some people think they're a pussy or something like that. You don't know how you're going to respond. I know that was one of my biggest concerns as a junior guy going into Iraq, was like, they keep telling you, am I going to go into the fetal position and start crying, or am I going to return fire? There's always that what if factor, but
yeah, I would agree with Dan. I think the infantry officers course and OCS and stuff, particularly infantry officers, I only can think of over just a couple over the course of my 20 years of service that were subpar. The rest of them were outstanding Marines.
Yeah, and people slip through the cracks, but the Marine Corps has a way with how they divide things up into thirds. There's a third process where they don't stick all the best and brightest in their first choices where they want to go. Things are spread load, and they understand the importance of different units. The Marine officer is an interesting thing. I know they get shit on by the enlisted all day long, but
let me see. I got one more picture I'm going to pull up here before we close this out. I'm just going to find it. It was one of yours. Oh, there it is. 1 second. All right.
Man.
This is that Fob Hotel, man. This is all the game players here.
This is it. That's little Teddy Graham right there. That's Mr.
Teddy Graham.
That's Mr. Boots right there. Fucking Boots.
Hey, look who this young strapping young Warfighter is back there.
Oh.
Yeah, boy.
Oh man.
There's right there.
And I'm sitting right next to him. Look at that happy camper. I had hair. Look at all that thick and luscious hair I had. Woo. Man, well, I can't remember that kid's name. What was that kid's name?
This guy right here? Luna?
Yeah. Luna. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I still have contact with him on Facebook. So
yeah, I think I do too. But everyone looks different. I'm like friends, and I'm looking. We have like, oh, there's fucking Machuca. Oscar.
I think that's Dawson.
Dawson. I was gonna say Deal, but Dawson was friends with Deal.
Oh my God, Deal. All right, let me tell you one story, man.
Oh God, I have a Deal story too.
So we're in Babylon, right? Yeah, remember how they told us no digging at Babylon because the ancient site and everything, all the ruins.
Yeah.
So I see I see Deal one day. He's digging a cat hole with his e-tool, and I'm like, I go over there and I'm like, Deal, what are you doing, man? You can't dig cat holes here. Take a shit. He's like, bro, look at this. And I'm like, what? I go over there. This dude had a rock in his hand, right? And it has like hieroglyphics on it.
He was a weirdo, but he was not incorrect, man. No, he showed us. I don't remember where he's from. We probably shouldn't say where he's from, but he showed us a home camcorder of coming back from leave from OIF1, and he's like just out in the woods blowing up trees and shit wherever the fuck he lives. Like he just makes homemade demo and blows up trees. He's like, yeah, that one was cool, huh? I'm like, what the fuck?
He's
dude?
Probably from like West Virginia or something.
Some mountainous region where the DEA, FBI is like all over it. Yeah. Golly day.
He was a great guy. He was an assault man. So
that was the thing about you never would get a group of guys like that together, no. And that's like that are there for the reasons, the same overall mission, which we all understood was like war fighting and stuff. It's so crazy because you put out like a summons for jury duty, you get like a random grouping of people that all hate each other and like a lot of times don't even come to a verdict. They just hang the jury. They can't even agree on anything. And you bring all of us from all different walks of life and put us in the worst shit on earth. And like, I don't know, we still kind of talk to this day.
I'm absolutely 100% convinced, man. When God forbid I move on to the afterlife, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be in the Pistol Factory 2004 with all you guys, man. That is like the pinnacle of my life right there.
That's probably why I re-enlisted and stayed in for as long as I did, as I was chasing 04, like those glory days. Like,
sorry. Pistol Factory is OIF1.
Yeah.
Hotel.
Fob Hotel.
So
how do you lose adrenaline?
All right, one more picture, and then we're gonna close this out. This, my friends, is burning shit.
So, in addition to the selective unmasker, there's some other tasks that PFCs get that are not ideal. This is burning human shit with JP8 gasoline. And if you're salty enough, you get to the point where you'll light your own cigarette off the shit stick. Like, no big deal.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So, as you guys can see, war isn't always glory here.
It's
matter
glorious.
Of fact, a lot of this.
It is glorious. That deployment, someone killed himself after we got porta-johns. And the deployment joke for that time when everybody said, when you got a shitty mission was, I'm going to the porta-shitter.
Well, Micah, it's been great, man. I appreciate you giving me 2 hours and almost 15 minutes here.
Thanks for having me, man. It's always fun. Always a good time. Always a good time. Keep tuning into this guy's YouTube. It's great.
So I don't know if you saw him earlier, but Zane Fisher, I'm talking to him. I'm going to have him on shortly. So he's coming up.
Yeah, he had mentioned he's one of the guys in the group text that I'm like, if the FBI saw this, it's like a special forces guy, a current Secret Service agent, like myself, Fisher, and a firefighter. Like, I don't know. I feel like that might be probable cause alone to just monitor. Like, yeah.
All right, brother. Well,
All
again,
right, brother. Thanks for having me, man. I'll see you next time. Take care, YouTube audience.
Semper Fi, brother.